I recognize the senator from Louisiana.
Mr. President, I know you have a family legacy in Florida. You'll appreciate that along the Gulf Coast and certainly in Louisiana, people in Louisiana are preparing for hurricanes. I just had a meeting with the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, and they sent me some photos of some Lake Charles homes. And I'm saying this in the context of a discussion about flood insurance and what has happened that just seems irrational. Now, to reduce their risk of flooding and therefore their monthly flood insurance premiums, people have paid to elevate their homes. It makes sense. If you get flood waters, it works. And it costs anywhere from $25,000 and $40,000. And if your foundation needs repair, there's another $25,000 on top of that. And if you have to fully replace your foundation, that can be another $100,000. But if it lowers your flood insurance premiums, it could be a worthwhile investment. You lift your homes, and you may not flood. Here is this home, a similar home, and you can see whereas the neighbors are flooding, in this one, an elevation like this prevents a flood in this picture. That home's not flooding, their insurance premium should go down. But after spending tens of thousands of dollars, homes to mitigate one's risk of flooding, they're still seeing high insurance premiums. They're getting the worst of both worlds. They had to pay to elevate their home, successfully preventing flooding. Despite that, they're having to pay much higher insurance premiums. Let's put up the chart of prices. Two properties. This is before they elevated their home, after they elevated their home. And at first it worked. They go from $12,000 a year to $758, from $4,500 down to $751. This is an investment which would lower the cost of flood insurance, saving the National Flood Insurance Program money, and therefore it is worthwhile to raise your home. Now, however, under a new system called Risk Rating 2.0, it doesn't matter. Here, they pay tens of thousands of dollars to elevate their home, and under this new system, their premium is back up to $9,800 or to $7,300. In this case, higher than it was before they elevated their home. The percent increase, about 1,200%. The percent increase here, almost 900%. Does not make sense. By the way, why would you pay to elevate your home if you get the double whammy of paying to elevate and then your premiums in some cases are higher than when they started? Now, these are just two examples. People who did everything right, did what they're supposed to, they're not going to flood, and yet after Risk Rating 2.0, this is what happened. I don't know if people still say ripped off, but they feel ripped off. They feel as if they did what was right and they've been punished and penalized because their premiums almost, or in some cases more than doubled relative to what happens. Now, these are nice homes, but they're not castles. These are middle-income families. And, you know, neighbors driving a pickup truck. And it looks a little bit, you're a car dealer, Mr. President, that doesn't look like it's a 2025. It's a good truck, it's a good family. These are not wealthy families. They are good middle-income families, spending tens of thousands of dollars to elevate their home, and yet still their premium continues to rise. So, with Risk Rating 2.0 driving up costs for lower and middle-income families, about a fifth of those enrolled in the National Flood Insurance Program will be forced to drop their coverage over the next 10 years. Okay, you raise premiums, and you raise them to a degree that 20% of the people, typically the lowest risk, drop their coverage. Then the flood insurance program has to spread its risk over a smaller base, which means it elevates the premiums even more. And so those who need it least are the next 20% to drop off. And this initiates what is called an actuarial death spiral. Risk Rating 2.0 is like termites eating away at the foundation of a house, and if we do nothing, the home is going to collapse. I introduced legislation in February to give low and middle income households enrolled in the National Flood Insurance Program a 33% reduction in their premium in the form of a refundable tax credit that will go straight to their premium payment at the time it is due. Now, hurricane season won't wait on those who need flood insurance. Americans in my state and across the country need relief now. If we really want to put Americans first, we can start by making the National Flood Insurance Program affordable now and keeping it affordable 10 to 15 years from now. It is a pocketbook issue. But when you flood, like folks in Louisiana and other states have, it becomes a personal issue. Since the start of 2025, at least 21 Americans across 8 states have died as a result of flooding and storms hitting their communities. Millions have been left without power or evacuated from their homes. And when you hear flood insurance, hey, I don't live in a coastal state. I don't live in Florida or Louisiana. Well, why does it bother me? My home will not get it destroyed. I wish that were true. This isn't a one-state problem. It is a one-nation problem. All 50 states have National Flood Insurance Program policyholders. The darker the color, the more likely the flooding. Missouri is in dark color. New York State, minimal coastline in dark color. Pennsylvania, dark color. This is called riverine flooding, where you have a river and it comes down like this, and you can get the river, people building in the valley get flooded because the river overflows its banks and it fills up that V-shaped valley. And so that's why you would see flooding. You hear in the darker, not as dark, but still dark, you have the Dakotas also having problems with flooding. So it is a 50-state problem. And in these states, there are those who don't have flood insurance, and the time will come when they wish that they did. The National Flood Insurance Program can provide certainty for individuals and for their family. And maybe you won't see flooding as extreme as losing a home. I sure hope you don't. But I'm not just talking about the worst-case scenario. Let's imagine, going back to this picture, the family didn't get their home completely flooded. The family got 4 inches of water in their living room. Their carpets are destroyed. If their floor is anything but concrete, it is destroyed. If you have furniture in there that's cloth, it's destroyed. If you get mold, then you're going to have to rip out the sheetrock and replace wherever you had sheetrock. 2 to 3 inches destroys the carpet. In fact, the most expensive 3 inches in a flood are the first 3 inches. And that's what makes flooding so difficult for a middle-income family to recover from. And for many, the National Flood Insurance Program is the only option they have. Now, by the way, the program designed to help them is failing them. And when millions of Americans are being impacted, Washington should act. And let me be clear. The National Flood Insurance Program is a federal program, meaning that Congress and the President can change and improve it. We just need to have the will. So I urge my colleagues to join me in working with the Trump administration to end Risk Rating 2.0. In 2019, my office worked with the Trump administration to successfully delay Risk Rating 2.0 because of the lack of transparency as to how FEMA was calculating the rates. President Trump understood then and understands now that Americans are tired of being ripped off. When rivers swell, when coastlines have rising water, Americans should not have to fear the cost of rebuilding without affordable insurance. So let's make the National Flood Insurance Program affordable, accountable, and sustainable. Severe weather is relentless. We must be too. And with that, I yield. And I note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsop Brooks.